there's like so many layers to the situation.
Yes.
First, I think there's a whole white supremacy element to the fact that a lot of times people come to urban environments and to large cities and then feel that the city should adapt to them and not that they should adapt to the city.
True,
and
absolutely.
so I know we talked about the article, like the gentrification and sound of quiet, but this is one of those things. You see somebody yelling and screaming and you, instead of being empathetic with that person, you feel afraid. And I get that because of the work that we do, we understand how to engage people on a different level.
Right.
But a part of me is like, why couldn't somebody just give him water? Why couldn't somebody just give him something to eat on the train? You're like, he's yelling about food. You're like, here you go about your day. But the idea that you can watch somebody get choked for up to 15 minutes and no one does anything, like, okay, like stop choking him. Where are all the police? Aren't there supposed to be thousands of police on these subway cars at every subway stop? Like, none of this makes sense to me. And then the fact that at the very end, no one even gave him CPR.
Right.
Was what was very problematic, especially if like it's like you are trained to kill people, you're trained to take people's lives, but you're not also trained to save people's lives and understand once you've gone too far. That just makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
I think like there's a whole bunch of different ways you could look at this, right? Like I think because I lived in, I'm with the high school in New York. I lived in New York for a number of years. When you get on public transportation in New York, you're really fighting for survival every day, right? Because it's always wild, whether it's the cops, whether it's other things happening, but no one deserves to be killed like that. And I think there's going to be a mental health conversation about both of these individuals that's going to come out because he was a veteran, and what type of psychological effects did the Marine Corps instill upon him,
right?
To where he could just be like, I can just kill right now, versus restrain,
right?
Like I'm wondering if that's going to be a talking point. And this is not shooting him bail at all. I'm just saying it's like it's a legitimate discourse that you should have. Now, Jordan Neely, again, contextually, did not touch anybody, did not do anything except for talk about really what everybody in the country is saying right now. I don't have food. I don't have water. Right? Inflation rates are so bloody ridiculous. Anecdotally, I just went to the grocery store yesterday. I got maybe 8 bags of groceries with nothing in them. It came to $230. There's an unsustainability in the economy right now that's forcing people into desperation.
Yeah.
And Jordan Neely was coming from an area of not only mental exhaustion, but he's been beaten down by society.
Right. According to reports, he saw his mother murdered in front of him at a very young age.
Right.
Definitely dealing with severe trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, no one deserves to be murdered on public transportation. No one deserves to be murdered, period.
Yes.
But, not like that. It becomes this situation, and then it's amplified by the tone-deaf response that ho-ass Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, has had.
Right.
Where he just said, like, today I rode the train in solidarity and in silence. It's like, that's not what people want. Like, yo, listen,
that's
like,
incredible.
It's like, just pretend I didn't even die on your watch. Like, why?
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like, instead of doing something, you got on the train. It's like, what is that? You know what I mean? That's symbolism over substance bullshit that we talk about. That's painting Black Lives Matter on Pennsylvania Avenue. That's, all this, you know what I mean? That's all that shit. You're doing everything except for addressing the problem. And Eric Adams, being a former cop, and as you said in prior production, he's talking like this, like a cop would talk about it.
Right. And it talked about, it said that Eric Adams actually presented his budget back in January, reported at the time the proposed municipal workforce cuts for his already understaffed administration would mean that agencies like the Department of Transportation are far less capable of creating safer streets, and the Human Resources Administration is less able to provide food stamps quickly or find more permanent housing to get families out of the New York shelter system. So Eric Adams is on record as stating like, oh, we need more mental health. Like a lot of these politicians are talking about right now, but his budget, he's actually cutting mental health support. There's also something when you talked about, somebody posted a picture that I saw on Twitter where they showed a deli shop next to the subway. and the sandwich was like $50.
Oh shit!
It was like one sandwich. It was like some crazy price.
Well, where
for
was
one
this?
sandwich?
Some upper,
I guess,
Upper West Side shit, or
something.
Like lower, you know what I mean?
But it was just a thing of like just showing how ridiculous. And then the last thing, and I'll come to you, Treble. There's a video in the video. Somebody transcribed what one of the witnesses said, and one of the witnesses said that he defecated. Talking about Jordan Neely, he defecated on himself. My wife is ex-military. You're going to kill him now. He defecated on himself. And the man holding him down says, that's old. That's old. The witness says, you sure that's old? My wife is ex-military. And another man said, he's not squeezing him. And the witness says, he's not squeezing him. If he defecates himself, that's it, all right? That's it.
Yeah.
Like he said, remember that you don't have to catch a murder charge. Can you hear me? So here's a witness, and I think I read, I don't know if this was the same witness, but there was a comment from one of the witnesses that says he like blames himself. Like, I should have stepped in. He felt that he should have did more than just this conversation. So, how are you processing this trouble?
So I've been having this conversation about architectural racism and how it affects us and how we interact with one another. And one of the biggest things that comes to play in this video is the fact that, like, homeless people have been criminalized for ages now.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? They build benches where they can't sleep, making us think that it's not okay for them to exist outside. Then you have places like McDonald's who almost every time I see them interact with a homeless person, it's like violent or angry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So then that makes people who don't question it think, oh, they don't belong in this space. So now you have this attitude that people operate homelessness with that's not inclusive, that's not compassionate, and leads to shit like this. And then we have another conversation that comes up about state-sanctioned violence and how, because this guy is a veteran, for some reason, a lot of people seeing this video think he's in the right.
Right.
Because he took an oath to protect the people. But it's like, what are you protecting people from when you're killing a guy who didn't touch anybody, who you could have left alone, just rode the train, sat there and got off and went about your business. But because you're a veteran, you think it's okay for you to just go out killing civilians, and you have a government that will protect that right for you to do so.
Absolutely.
So that's how I'm processing it.
I mean, to the point where even kind of like you said, even the framing as ex-Marine is a frame meant to kind of give you
humanize him.
Yeah, yeah. Or like he served this country. He like he has a particular training, but in actuality, if you have that training, you should know.
Facts.
Instead of doing it should be the opposite, in the sense of, if you have this Marine training, you should know what you're doing can kill somebody. Just like if you're, as a police officer, to me, being a police officer means you should have more responsibility when it comes to the death of civilians, because you are trained, right? You should know your taser from your gun. You should know these things because you went through this training. You went through this academy, right?